Again, we're going to have a change of pace. Patricia Wilson is a speech language therapist at the Otto Speck School in the USA. And Patricia is interested in including different speech therapy methods that she's going to talk to us about, but also augmentative and alternative communication, which was an area that Mia highlighted earlier today around challenges that families find in having therapists who actually have experience in that area. So this is something we all are going to work towards further, but it will be wonderful to hear Patricia sharing her insights around therapy of a child with Cat6A syndrome. So thank you so much, Patricia, for joining us today. Tanya, are we having some difficulties? No, we're okay. Thanks so much, Tanya.
Show camera. I did on you. Okay, start video. Okay, go bye. Thank you, please. I apologize. Thank you for being patient with me. I'm technologically disabled. Can you hear me?
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks, Patricia. It's all up on the screen now, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to speak amongst a captivating party of professionals on a mission to broaden our understanding of Cat6A and B, and ultimately being in a position to enhance the life of another. Today, my goal is to explore communication methods, keeping in mind the various characteristics of Cat6A and B. Well, we're familiar with the unique presentations, and often I'm very fortunate. The child precedes the paperwork. So I am usually faced with a child, and my goal is to interact and find out the abilities of that particular child and how I can build speech, language, communication, nonverbal abilities. So that's something important in a therapeutic situation. In considering the complexities that are also part of Cat6A, B, and many other syndromes, the therapeutic environment is very important to be set up in a way that explores and invites the child and is in a comfortable manner as possible. And I'll show you some pictures of some therapy sessions that aren't as traditional as some others. And the dynamic experiences, well, I'm so fortunate to work with a particular child and his family. He's part of the band, and his family has him invested in so many activities. And that just the explorations, the socializations that he experiences have given him so many tools to work with. And here is a non-traditional setting for a speech therapy therapeutic session. And most important, first and foremost, is calming the system. We are available, all of us are available to learning when our systems are regulated. And my particular friend here was having some gastrointestinal turmoil that day, and we decided to do our speech session on a swing, and we had more success. The session itself was more effective because my friend was comfortable. This is something that I enjoy reading often, or better yet, hearing Maya Angelou state, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. I hear my mother in the background when I read this. And I feel for today's wealthy amalgamation of information, I feel like now I know better. And so thank you so much for inviting me. I am at a point where I need more information, and it was great to see it and hear it presented from so many different angles. Exploring speech sound disorders. I'm jumping into childhood apraxia of speech because of its relevancy to the Cat6AB community. It is a neurological, as you have heard just previously, speech sound disorder. And it's not like most other speech sound disorders that we see typically. It is not a muscular concern. It's the brain, the language center, sending messages to the motor center, and the acknowledgement is not quite comprehended. So the planning and programming of these particular children speaking looks quite uncomfortable. It can look quite uncomfortable, not always, but severe cases, it has an appearance of struggling to speak. So it's my job and your job to find different methodologies that work for that particular child. And there are techniques out there that have made great strides. So down beneath, I have some other terminology for apraxia of speech. When you see it in the literature, we don't have a universal term at this point. You might see it as apraxia of speech, and that's usually considering non-congenital cases, adults primarily. Then verbal dyspraxia, the psychological community references it as verbal dyspraxia, but it has the same definition as CAS. And then developmental apraxia of speech, we don't really use that terminology anymore because it considers it a developmental issue that perhaps one can grow out of. And apraxia of speech requires therapeutic intervention, reorganization of the motor system, the language motor connection. This is, as entering the therapy room, this is what I would look for. Just having a conversation with the child, the rate in which the child speaks. And usually with apraxia speech, it has elongated vowels or elongated consonant sounds. So it's very varied in terms of the rate of speaking. Voice onset timing, voicing isn't always apparent. It hasn't been turned on because there's an overload in their attempts. Fluency, this is where the message sometimes, and prosody, the message, depending upon their degree of apraxia, the message can be unintelligible, and that also incorporates the articulation component. The prosodic features, it lacks that melodic sense or that melodic tone because they're trying so hard. It's very effortful for many with severe cases. With the milder cases, the elongated vowels. So there's a stress that's not put on a particular sound, or there's a strenuous lack of timing for the next sound. Differential diagnosis in terms of articulation disorders and phonological disorders. These two have patterns of errors. You could see in an articulation disorder, we could say, oh, it's a lateralized S. They have perhaps a weakness producing R's, and it's always that same sound. Phonological disorders, it's so rule-based. They might say a back sound like k instead of ba. So it could be a whole host of errors, but there is a pattern that we see. With childhood apraxia of speech, that's really the hallmark sign, that it's without a pattern. There's so many variations. And when they try to rephrase or restate, it could come out incredibly different than the previous attempt. The methods, there are methods out there. There's two that I'm currently using, prompts. It stands for Prompts for Restructuring Oral Muscular Phonetic Targets. And this was developed by Deborah Hayden back in the 70s, and it has been, it's evolved since. It started out as just, I shouldn't say just, but incredible motor planning concepts were integrated in terms of where you touch, how much pressure you would promote, and sequencing, working on the sequencing of sounds for speech. Then they reinstated a few ideas. There were children coming in that had respiratory issues, so we went back to the phonological aspect. So it starts with tone. Tone is so important for anything and everything. And speech, when we have low tone, it compromises speech. Respiration, without respiration, there is no speech, verbal speech. So these are the concepts